wonderful students. Thanks so much for joining us for our flipped lesson on punctuating sentences. We all know that when we write a sentence, we need end punctuation, like a period, question mark, or exclamation point, depending on the type of sentence we're writing. However, we're noticing that some of us aren't using commas correctly in the middle of our sentences. There are tons of comma rules to learn. We're not going to go through all of them in this lesson, but we are going to look at how we use commas when we write compound sentences. But before we can understand what a compound sentence is, we first need to learn about simple sentences and the elements that all sentences should have. So there are 4 types of sentences: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. We'll learn about all of them this year, but right now we're going to focus on simple and compound. A simple sentence has a subject, who or what the sentence is about, a verb, what the subject is doing, and it must complete a full thought. You're not left hanging with needing more information. You're satisfied with the information provided to complete the thought. We also know that a sentence, of course, needs to begin with a capital letter and end with proper end punctuation. So to help us understand simple sentences, we're going to use my puppy Gus. Hey, Gus. So let's look here. Gus loves his bone. This is a full sentence. It contains a subject, Gus, and then what is Gus doing? Well, he loves. So Gus loves what? His bone. Makes it a full thought, not left wondering for more information. That's a simple sentence. Here's another one. Gus is cute. So we have our subject, Gus, and our verb here is the be verb is. Now, is a linking verb between Gus and the adjective cute. So again, full sentence, simple sentence. Now this is all well and good. Simple sentences should be simple, right? They get a little bit more complicated when we add conjunctions. So if we remember from Schoolhouse Rock and Conjunction Junction, conjunctions help us to hook up words and phrases and clauses. Now, there are 3 types of conjunctions: coordinating, correlative, and subordinating. Again, we're going to learn about all of these this year. Today we're just going to focus in on coordinating conjunctions. Now, to remember the coordinating conjunctions, we use the acronym FANBOYS, which, as we remember, stands for and nor, but, or, yet, and so. So conjunctions help us to connect words, phrases, and clauses. Let's first look at how conjunctions can connect words. They can help us combine nouns and pronouns. Now look here, conjunctions can help us to make meaning from these sentences. Look at that first one. The cat and mouse played hide and seek. The conjunction and helps us to understand that there are 2 things who are playing. How about the next one? Neither Michael nor Stephen finished his homework. This helps us to figure out that none of those boys did their homework. And in the last sentence, we see he or I will help you revise your paper. That conjunction or tells us that there will be one helper for the paper. So conjunctions can combine nouns and pronouns. We can also use conjunctions to combine verbs. Look at that first sentence. The quarterback darted, then scrambled. The students cheered and shouted. Will you smile or frown when your report card arrives? And they can combine adjectives and adverbs, so to help us write in a more descriptive manner. Now these are all important to keep in mind when we're thinking about simple sentences, because these are going to help us to have compound subjects and compound verbs that still have a simple sentence. So let's look here. Look at those 2 pictures of sweet baby Gus. So Gus loves his bone and his antler. Our conjunction here is that word and. We have to think, what is and joining? Well, it's telling us what Gus loves. He loves 2 things. He loves his bone and he loves his antler. So there we're joining those phrases. How about this one? Gus and Mrs. Day take a selfie. So here we have 2 pieces of our subject. We have Gus and we have Mrs. Day. This would be an example of what we call a compound subject simple sentence. There's more than one person or animal doing the taking. It's 2 together. So we have a compound subject, but still a simple sentence. If we look before, this would be having a compound part of our predicate. All right, so we also have phrases that conjunctions can help us join. Now, phrases are groups of words that do not contain a noun or a pronoun acting as a subject, actively doing a verb. Similarly, they can help us join clauses. This is when we have groups of words that do contain a noun or a pronoun acting as the subject, actively doing the verb. And we'll look at these in more depth. So let's look at phrases. The sneaking brown cat played hide and seek with the mouse. Sneaking brown cat is our phrase. We don't have a noun or pronoun doing a subject in this group of words, so it's considered a phrase. How about this one? The pesky quick mouse played hide and seek with the cat. Pesky quick mouse is the phrase. Now we can combine those two together. The sneaking brown cat and the pesky quick mouse played hide and seek. So that conjunction and helps us to join those phrases. Let's look here. Oh, look at poor Gus. Gus dislikes the cone of shame and hates the dragon costume. So in this sentence, we have and again as our conjunction, but let's think about what and is joining. Well, if we read our sentence, Gus is our subject. Now what is Gus doing? He dislikes and hates. So in this sentence, we have what we call a compound verb simple subject, or a compound verb simple sentence, because Gus is doing two things in that one sentence. Poor guy. So now we move into clauses. Now there are two types of clauses. There's an independent clause and a dependent clause. Today we're only going to talk about independent clauses. Now think about what that word independent means. Where have you heard that in context before? You might have heard it in history class when you were talking about the War for Independence, or whenever the colonies wanted to break free from England and become independent. They want to be on their own. You might also think of yourself sometimes as wanting to be more independent. We know your teachers are encouraging you to advocate for yourself and to become more independent by doing things for yourself. So something that is independent can stand on its own. This is important when we think about clauses. An independent clause contains a noun or a pronoun acting as a subject, a verb, and it completes a full thought. This means that it can stand by itself as a full sentence. So that term, independent clause, is really a synonym for full sentence. All right, so if we're thinking about clauses, it's important to look at a sentence that contains some independent clauses or groups of words that make a full sentence. So let's look here. Writing is fun, and it involves lots of work. Now what we should first notice is that we have that coordinating conjunction and. Now that we need to look and think about what and is joining. So let's look before it. Writing is fun. This group of words is an independent clause because it has a subject, writing, contains a verb, is, and completes a full thought. Writing is fun. Full sentence. Now let's look at what comes after the coordinating conjunction and. It involves lots of work. This is also an independent clause. We have our subject, it, the pronoun that refers back to writing. Our verb involves, and then we complete the thought with lots of work. It involves lots of work is a full sentence. It could stand by itself, so that is considered an independent clause. Now what we want to notice about this sentence is that we have two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. We also have something else here, and that's the comma. Whenever we have two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction, we must have a comma before the conjunction. It separates these two independent clauses from each other. Now let's look at a similar sentence. Writing is fun and involves lots of work. Well, here again we have our coordinating conjunction and we begin with that same independent clause, writing is fun. But now let's look after the coordinating conjunction. We have the words involves lots of work. It's similar to what we have before, but we've dropped that pronoun it. So now we have involves lots of work. This is not a full sentence because we're missing a subject. We don't know what involves lots of work. This would not be able to stand by itself as a full sentence. And it's not a clause because it does not contain a subject and a verb. So this is a phrase. Now notice, whenever we have an independent clause joined with the phrase, we do not have a comma. in between the independent clause and the phrase. That's because the phrase needs to be a little bit closer, not so separate from that independent clause that's making it a full sentence. So a compound sentence contains two independent clauses, a coordinating conjunction, and it has a comma before the conjunction. Let's look at an example. There's Gus again. Gus lays on the floor and he begs successfully for treats. Here we have our coordinating conjunction and we have our two independent clauses. Gus lays on the floor, full sentence. He begs successfully for treats, also a full sentence. Now also, notice what we have to have when we have a compound sentence. You got it, that comma before the conjunction. So when we have coordinating conjunctions, our fanboys, for used to mean because, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so, we have a rule that we want to make sure that we follow. So when a coordinating conjunction joins two independent clauses, a comma must be used before the conjunction. Look at this example. Here are two very short little sentences. Reading helps you learn, reading is fun. Kind of repetitive. Sounds better to put them together and say, reading helps you learn, comma, and it is fun. But whenever we have a coordinating conjunction that joins one independent clause with a phrase, no comma is used before the conjunction. Let's look here. Reading helps you learn and is fun. That phrase is fun does not contain a subject, so it's not a clause, so you have no comma before the and. All right, so Gus would like you to remember a few things as you are looking at your own writing. When you look at it, look and see what type of sentence are you using. Are you using a simple sentence? Are you using a simple sentence that has a compound subject? What about a simple sentence that has a compound verb? Or are you using two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction and then having a compound sentence? If that's the case, remember to use a comma before the coordinating conjunction. Thanks for joining us. We'll be talking more about this in class. Bye.